Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and this is Let's Play Dusk and Dawn Crimson Gray, Part 7. And I actually had to look into a guide for this last episode. The last achievement, surprisingly, is referred to as the Bachelorette Party, which is very unexpected given, well, everything we've seen in this game and the previous one. Now, that being said, in this version of this ending, you have to do everything right except you choose to be quietly supportive here. So, one, you are required to actually review the story. So even saying you already played the first one actually will not get you this one. Now, the only difference is if you talk about issues or work through stuff together, you get the wedding and everything, but you don't get the bachelor and bachelorette party, which is weird because I would think talking about issues is more important. Honestly, I would say one of the most important things in a relationship is communication. Both people should be able to talk to each other and treat each other with respect and be there for each other, but you shouldn't be judgmental of each other. But both you and your partner should feel free to tell each other everything you want and not feel judged or hated or anything. And obviously, if you are feeling a little unstable, well, I mean, it's obviously better to talk to your partner sooner rather than later. I mean, after all, communication is healthy. And I think it's important for people to be honest with each other. But yeah, review the story so far. Pick anything except, kill a track team. Explain fully. Start making dinner. Have sex at the library. Ignore the others and find John. Take John's idea. Have sex at the library. Be quietly supportive. Now, from this point, you guys are actually going to be here with me. Well, like I said, everything here seems kind of counterintuitive to what we've seen. Lizzie decided that it was her turn to carry. Okay, we have to not kill her. Are there any other don't killers? No, don't kill her. End conversation and tell John about it. Skip. Explain the thoughts that went into the notebook. Okay. This is slightly different. It seemed John was fine, though his eyes were very serious. He was always more prone to sadness, and she imagined his thoughts were grim, but they didn't seem to be crushing him. They sat there, both somewhat tense, until John glanced over at her with a slight grin. Your murderous laughter was much cuter. Aw, that's... okay. Lizzie threw herself into his arms, laughing. It had occurred to her to compare herself to the other girl, but John's words completely wiped out such thoughts. He was joking, but the fact that he was able to joke so easily with her was a wonderful thing. Besides, there was probably a bit of truth in there, too. She was better than that awful girl. Okay, we're back to the parts we can skip. Okay, forgetting about it is the correct choice. John hadn't been too upset about the incident, but she was happy to take his mind off the serious subject for a little while. Though part of her desperately wanted more... Okay, back to skipping. Okay, asking John about it is the correct choice. And then we have to do trust him with the lowercase. That part, that's why it matters here. Okay. Okay, so this is different. This time she doesn't chase out the girl. She actually is a tiny bit more sociable. Okay. Lizzie paused, considering all the factors in her mind, then gave the woman a flat smile. I'm going to go for a walk in the garden then. Don't get too close to any of the workers. Ignoring her, Lizzie headed out. The grounds were really pleasant, but she was glad they picked the location for her. But her purpose was not to go for a walk. Once she got out of eyesight, Lizzie circled back and made her way around the main building. Before they had been split up, she obviously noted exactly where they had taken John to wait. Comparing it to the map she had looked up the building, she could easily determine where his room met the outside wall. She didn't see anyone until she saw him through the window. John was alone, sitting in a room much like hers, though he looked mostly calm. She could see the tension in his hands, and he clasped them together. No doubt he was nervous about this too, and given her fears about this day, Lizzie had probably added to them, but she had planned to reverse that trend very soon. Just not quite yet. Instead, she stayed outside the window staring at him, just like she used to. The next time, she'd be staring at her husband. Lizzie was sure that her smile had become something that was not comforting to most, but it didn't matter. She knocked on the glass, and John jumped a little, whirling to look at her, but when he saw her, he immediately smiled. After checking the window a bit, he managed to open it. "Everything okay, Lizzie?" "Everything's fine. There was just an awful woman saying boring things, and I got tired of it." Before he could object, she pulled her through the window. Normally it would have been effortless, but the dress made things a little more difficult. Fortunately, John offered her his hand, and she was able to get in somewhat gracefully. They say it's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding. She walked past them and locked the door to the room. I think that only applies to normal people. Brushing past him again, Lizzie lowered the blinds to cover the window completely, then turned to him with a smile. "Would you like to see the bride?" "Really? Now?" He glanced over his shoulder at the door, as if she hadn't just locked it. He was smiling. After a moment, he turned back to her. "You are beautiful, Lizzie. If you stay here, I don't think I'll be able to help myself." She grabbed the front of his suit, and pulled him to her. "I don't want you to." Lizzie pressed herself against him, ignoring the clothes between them. Feeling the body against hers, his hands automatically came to rest on her waist, keeping her there as he bent her to kiss her. She eagerly kissed back, first simply and romantically, then after a while, slipping her tongue into his mouth. One of John's hands slid down, cupping her ass through her dress, and pulling her harder against him. Needing more, Lizzie pushed him until he had to take a step backward, his back against the wall. That felt good, but she wanted— "You better not be a sex scene! You better not devolve into a sex scene, John." "Okay, this is at least tasteful. Okay, I can show this on YouTube. The sex scene in the library I cannot show, because it was very, very gratuitous. This is tasteful. It's actually romantic looking. Not that the other one wasn't romantic, but it was much more sexual. This is also sexual, but in a romantic way. Like I said, outright dirty, kinky sex. That's still good, just... you guys know what I mean. Understanding, he spun her around so that she was the one against the wall. Her veil fluttered with the movement, covering her face. And for a moment she could only feel him there, pressing against the wall, his knees sliding between her legs. Ah, yes, like this. His hand slid down, brushing over the silk of her dress, caressing her thigh. She eagerly raised it against his side, her leg partially wrapped around the dress, and partially against the smooth material of his suit. John kissed her again, grinding his hips against hers a little harder. Lizzie moaned softly and pressed herself hard against him, even as he kept caressing her thigh through the dress. You have a lot of dress." Lizzie laughed gleefully. Unfortunately, John just smiled too. Her dress didn't have too large of a train, but it still took a little careful work to hitch the front end up a bit above the waist. John blinked when he saw she was wearing only a thin lingerie below. "I didn't want to wait to get changed at the ceremony, but I couldn't even wait that long." Lizzie fumbled at his crotch, feeling the hardness there, and it was his turn to laugh. He didn't make her wait any longer. Getting us caught— "You better not fucking show this. Okay? I don't want to have to re-record this." She couldn't see it due to her dress, so Lizzie just slid one of her legs around the hip and eagerly looked into his eyes as he pushed the laundry aside, hoping they don't show anything. Not that I don't mind, because I like, but YouTube don't like. I cannot. There are certain things that you are not allowed to upload to YouTube. So, don't be explicit, game. He slid inside her easily, making Lizzie moan and arch away from the wall against him. The clothing they were wearing no longer seemed like the slightest obstacle. Now the two of them were joined. John began to thrust gently inside her, letting his weight fall against her and pin her to the wall. It felt glorious, but she wanted more. Lizzie slid her arm from his shoulders up to the back of his head, tangling in his hair. It had been combined in a style that looked good, but she still preferred his slightly tousled look. As they fucked, her hand slid through his hair and tousled it a little more. At least they're not showing anything. Because of the big poofy dress, you can't see a damn thing. Goodness. She pulled him closer to kiss again, and he did so, gently kissing her even as their hips thrust furiously against one another. John was about to become hers in yet another way, and she wanted nothing more. Except at that moment, she wanted to come. When John pulled back, Lizzie tilted her head upward and let herself moan louder. Let someone try to run out. She didn't care. They'd be done before anyone could stop them. Belatedly, she realized that John might be more concerned, but she was glad to see that he was entirely focused on her. His eyes were filled with love and desire as they ran all over her, and he didn't stop moving. Her needy pussy accepting his length gladly. Wow, they are definitely not pulling any punches with the verbs. Just, like I said, keep it YouTube friendly. And while, yes, there are no kids watching this because, I mark all my videos as not suitable for children because honestly, no one under the age of 18 should watch any one of my videos because it's just me cussing. That being said, even then, even to other adults, I can't show certain explicit things on YouTube. YouTube does not accept that. Setting aside such concerns, Lizzie just leaned back and enjoyed the pleasure. She was moaning continually now, her breath coming ragged. Her chest rose and fell, breasts nearly threatening to escape her dress. But it didn't matter. All she wanted was more and harder. Do not show the tits popping out. While I would like to see that, I don't want to have to re-record this. Just when she thought she couldn't take it any longer, John groaned and his hips shuddered. His body grounded against hers fast and erratically as his length jerked inside her. The feeling of his pleasure sent her over the edge, gripping him tightly as her body arched against the wall so powerfully that she almost pushed him back, but he stayed seated inside her, letting her pussy spasm around him as she came. For a moment her head was as white as the dress she wore. Then Lizzie came back down, still gasping for breath. She saw that John was breathing heavily too, his arm against the wall, now partially to support himself. She didn't mind feeling his body pressing against her, and his cock still inside her, as they both recovered. When he pulled back, Lizzie quickly shifted her lingerie to keep his cum inside her. John raised his eyebrows. Really? It's easier that way. Think about it during the ceremony if you want. She winked at him, but it felt a little too silly and she ended up kissing him again. Lizzie returned her leg to the ground and just enjoyed kissing him for a while as she held her there in her wedding dress. Well, you got the final achievement. As glorious as it had felt, it was a little awkward immediately afterward as they struggled to right the clothes and remove any sign of what happened. They both helped the other to adjust and then smiled. That was a lot better than just waiting. Wasn't it? Then I'll see you soon, won't I? Look surprised. Lizzie climbed back out the window, made sure her dress was still in decent shape, and then headed back to her room. The assistant grumbled when she saw a few things askew, but Lizzie just smiled at her demurely and said that she had had a nice walk, and in a few minutes everything was fixed and the preparations were finally done. Wouldn't she have a smell? The wedding was so soon, yet Lizzie wasn't nervous anymore. It was finally time. Anything different? Even though she had just seen him wearing the suit and all on before, it was completely different to see him standing there waiting to marry her. He looked amazing. That was nothing compared to the look she saw in his eyes, though. He was looking at her as if it was the first time and the millionth time. His eyes were filled with such love that it nearly broke her heart. It took all her self-control not to run down the walkway toward him. She made herself walk, okay, and only option. Okay, so we have 100% this game. Again, I would strongly recommend it. There were a couple scenes I couldn't show you guys, but, well, you understand. Anyway, this was a really great visual novel series, and I would definitely say, not only would I recommend Crimson Gray, but I'd say if you played the first one, you absolutely must play the second. Anyway, hope everyone out there had a good day, and if anyone has any requests for anything else they'd like, keep in mind that, you know, there are certain things, whether it be sexually explicit, that I can't really show on YouTube. And it doesn't have to be a visual novel, but, you know, given that's the genre that we're on right now, that is, I guess, an obvious pick, since if you're watching this, you're into visual novels. Beyond that, probably after I finish this recording, I'll do another episode of Enter the Gungeon, and then I'll probably start on that visual novel called Ill Will. There are a few visual novels that I'm interested in, that I've been interested in for a couple years, that I still don't know anything about hardly, like Zonky Zero, but while that is a very good one, from what I've heard, and is made by the exact same people that did Raging Loop, which I say is the absolute best visual novel ever. That being said, the other visual novels I would definitely strongly recommend would be AI Somnium Files, Song of Memories, and Deathmark. That being said, I'm not going to spend $60 on Zonky Zero. I'm going to wait for that thing to be on sale. But yeah, Ill Will is the next visual novel on the plate. So I'm going to record a little Enter the Gungeon and then hop into that. I hope everyone had a good day. And bye.